All right. We're going to get going. Does that sound good for you, Bettina?
Yes, I just want to explain why this meetup group was founded. We founded this group 3 years ago with the intention to help Salesforce professional because I was representing a consultant here in the United States that was expanding and we needed to hire a lot of people. So we wanted to find out excellent professionals. But at this time, we changed a little bit. This group wasn't having meetings, so I invited Josh to be an admin with me, and together our intention right now is to prepare you to rock and roll the Salesforce ecosystem. With his knowledge of placing professionals and my knowledge of coaching, we want to help you thrive in this ecosystem. So that's the intention. We have one meeting a month. It will be an online meeting, and we want to bring awesome content to you guys. So that's our goal. This is the first one. So we will be sharing this in all the Salesforce user groups that I'm part of, and Josh and all his network as well.
All right. Yeah, thank you. And for those, we've got Andrew and Nitinku, and Arushi has just joined us. Thanks for joining us here on Clubhouse. We're actually running a webinar. I'm going to give you details on how you can join that directly. If you'd like to see the slides, you can just go to my LinkedIn profile, Joshua Matthews. It's just LinkedIn/IN/Joshua Matthews. And click on the link of my most recent post. So it'll be right there. Or just stay on Clubhouse. That's perfectly good. Most of this stuff is going to come to you auditorily. You just don't get to see our awesome, beautiful faces or our pretty pictures. So
one person.
Yeah. Look how we clean up on these photos, right? Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, well, let's go for it. Bettina, why don't you give a quick introduction about you and your background, and then I'll dive in myself.
Okay, I'm a marketing specialist. I was living in Brazil for a while. I had a marketing company there, and we worked mainly with Microsoft, Nortel and Brazil Telecom, high technology companies, and I was specialized in CRMs over there. When I moved here to the United States, I had a chance to start from scratch, and I decided to implement CRM for nonprofits. And I fell in love with Salesforce, like you guys know. So I've been helping nonprofits implement Salesforce. I run the user group of my city, and I also an executive coach. Since I have the knowledge of the Salesforce ecosystem, I help a lot of professionals to be happy with their work. And
I got 5 jobs, man. You only have 3.
And I fell in love with what Josh is doing online to support Salesforce professional. And I said, if I want to join forces with someone, Josh is the guy. So I called him and said, hey, Josh, let's do this together. And I'm really impressed. What are you doing for Salesforce professionals as well? Can you explain what is Endeavor Staffing?
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. So you can probably click to the next slide. There's my guess. So my name is Josh Matthews. I'm president of Endeavor Staffing and the SalesforceRecruiter.com. This is a specialty niche. I would call it a high-end firm. It is. We only place top performers. Most of the placements that we make, kind of disclosure here, are not administrators. We try to help admins as much as we can, mostly through the Clubhouse shows, the YouTube channel, which is Josh Force. You just go to YouTube, type in Josh Force, and I've got some decent articles on how to interview well. And of course, we're doing things like today, which is how to get a promotion. I like promotions. If you're ambitious, they're important. They're nice to have. My quick background is I've been involved in recruiting and staffing for 22 years, about 3 years specialized in Salesforce only. Been a VP at Fortune 500 companies. I've run companies nationally, overseas, and decided to just dedicate my life and my career and all of my work to helping people in this ecosystem. So that's what we're doing today. That's my little intro. Let's keep cranking through. Lots to cover.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the approach that I use on coaching. I want to inspire people to find balance between their life. So I want people to know their mission and how they can, inside the Salesforce ecosystem, really being fulfilled with their mission, what they're doing and feeling happy. And there are different paths that you can pursue in Salesforce. So I like you to find out what are those paths and for you to feel happy when working with Salesforce. That's my intention.
Okay. All right. So we're going to be going back and forth, Bettina and I will today, and we're going to be, Bettina's going to be covering about 4 or 5 chapters or 4 or 5 key points that are identified in the book Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I don't know if you guys know who Jocko is. He's an interesting guy. I've watched a bunch of his YouTube videos over the last several years. So neat guy, kind of a badass. I mean, I don't know any Navy SEALs that aren't. Actually friends with a former Navy SEAL who's a badass in the Salesforce ecosystem. He's a really terrific guy, and he lives not far from me. We've hung out at DF19 before. So they are among us, these protectors of our country and of our way of life. So we're really grateful for Jocko for writing this book, and we're really grateful for Bettina for sharing some of his key points. And that's going to be interlaced with some of my experiences, knowledge, background in placing people, hundreds, thousands of people, interviewing thousands of people, and then running top performing teams in corporate America as well, and having to go through the process of how to get a promotion myself. So we're going to go through this. We're going to spend kind of bounce back and forth a couple minutes with each of us. And hopefully the goal by the end of this is that everyone on this show will at least have a few ideas and more of a plan on, if they want a promotion, what they might want to do. Now, I want to tell you something before we get started. I do a lot of high-level search, right? I just made a placement for a guy today. He's $220,000 director level role. I work on GM roles, CEO level roles, and all the way down. And I was interviewing an executive to run Salesforce for a 70,000 person company recently. And in fact, he had an interview this morning with one of my clients. And I was asking him about sort of some questions around self-awareness and self-assessment. And he said, Josh, no one gets to be an executive without really having to check their ego and look at themselves through a very, through an honest lens, and do critical self-assessment. So what I'm going to ask everyone who's on this call today to do is to keep an open mind. You might hear things that are really inspiring, and you might also hear things and think, screw that sucks, right? Or you might hear things and think, well, I don't do that, I don't have a chance in hell, right? And I'm telling you, everyone who's got 100 IQ or better can get into a leadership role and can get a promotion. So just for what it's worth, just take a deep breath, relax. If you've got a pen and a pad or your Evernote up or wherever you like to capture information, do. Even if you never look at those notes again, you'll remember more information than the average 6% retention on seminars like this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bettina. Let's go.
So we were discussing what value could we bring to you guys, and I've been working with this book with my mastermind group, and I learned so many things. Powerful leadership principles from the battlefield that we can use in business. And I was thinking, how can we use all those skills into the Salesforce ecosystem? And there are a lot of things that we can think of to use. And the first one is extreme ownership. And I've been seeing a lot of professionals in the Salesforce ecosystem that always blame others, say, oh, it's not my fault, this was the user. And I think once you bring the ownership to you and you bring the power to your hands, that's the difference by delegating and making it happen in your own hands.
Bettina, I'm going to read this slide for our Clubhouse listeners, if that's okay, before we keep going. So the number one rule is extreme ownership. So a true leader takes 100% ownership of everything in his or her domain, including the outcome and everything that affects it. This is the most fundamental building block of leadership that cuts across all other principles. It applies to leadership at any level in any organization. And to be honest, it applies to your personal relationships too. You want great relationships with great people? Own everything that you do, right?
Yeah, what I love from this example that they gave on the book, he was explaining one simple battle that they lost. and they were trying to find who was guilty about it. And then he called his team and asked who was guilty of this happening, because they shoot the same team. So it was really, really terrible what happened. And then the soldier said, no, it was my fault because of that. It was my fault. At the end, the leader said, no, it was my fault because I didn't guide you well enough. So if you, as an admin, as a leader of a Salesforce corporation, a corporation that's using Salesforce, if you take the ownership on your hands and analyze what can you do better, this will make a huge, huge change. And that's the number one tip.
Yeah,
Any other comments?
Yeah, that's critical. I mean, it really is. It's accountability, right? How accountable are you for your effect on other people and on the production in the team, or what happens? There's this great story. I want to say it was in a book by Jack Welch, and this guy had really screwed up one of his employees, and it cost the company $700,000 in 1980s money. Okay, so that's like saying 3 million right now, or $2.5 million. Massive, massive mistake. And one of his vice presidents said, well, you fired him, right? And he said, why would I fire him? I just paid $700,000 for him to learn an important lesson. Right? So that's extreme ownership. It's also extreme responsibility as a leader too. I thought that's a great example. Let's go to the next slide. And for those on Clubhouse who've just joined us, we're doing a webinar. And if you're interested in actually seeing the slides, you can visit my LinkedIn profile / Joshua Matthews. Click on my most recent post. There's a link there, and you can join us visually. All right. Let's see the next slide, please, Bettina.
So I'm going to read it for everybody who's listening. Keep things simple. Keep your plans simple so they can be easily communicated, understood, adjusted in response to real-time changes. I want to bring this topic not just about the system, because Salesforce sometimes can be complicated, but I want to use this to help you guys on training. So whenever you're doing an onboard to a new employee that will use Salesforce, or if you bring a new feature to your Salesforce environment and you want to train people, try to keep things simple. The best way to do that is by sitting side by side with the users and ask them how they're going to use this new functionality, and try to plan all your trainings the most simple way as you can. I don't know if you guys know, there is an app on App Exchange called Packet, and this is specifically for you to break down trainings inside your own Salesforce ecosystem. So there are plenty of tools on App Exchange that you can use to keep training simple, but keep things simple is essential for you to grow. All
right, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next slide. And just as a quick reset here on Clubhouse, you're listening to me, Josh Matthews, and Bettina from Witty Coaching, who is a Salesforce aficionado and an executive coach. And we're going through some points right now from Jocko's book, Extreme, what is it? Extreme, say it again? Extreme ownership. Okay. Could you click the next screen, please? All right.
Yeah. So prioritize and execute. It can be overwhelming to be faced with many time-sensitive, high-stake problems, all of which may snowball into bigger issues. In such situation, good leaders stay calm, take stock to identify the top priorities, then tackle them one at a time.
Yeah, can I just jump in real quick on this? I was talking to a friend of mine this morning who is looking for a new job, right? Not in the Salesforce ecosystem, but has some things that they need to accomplish in their life. And it made me think of something that my dad taught me years ago. My dad's a really interesting guy. He's worked in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Kyrgyzstan. He's done some incredible things. But first and foremost, he was really a salesman and a deal maker, right? And so I kind of came up in that environment. And he always talked to me about dollar productive activity. And I was telling my friend this morning, I said, I could wake up, start work at 8 and work till 5. And I could do that 5 days a week. And I could do that 250 days a year during the week, and never close a single deal, never produce a damn thing, like ever. I could do emails, and honestly, I could do webinars, I could do Clubhouse shows, I can, make pretty pictures on Canva, I can run my LinkedIn. I could do all of that. And I can stay busy 40 hours a week doing everything but dollar productive activity. And so when we talk about prioritizing and executing, and to really tie it in with the goal of this program, which is how to get a promotion, the people who get promoted are the ones that have the greatest impact on the bottom line for the company, period. They solve the most complex problems. They take the complex issues and they solve them, and they're focused on the right things. So one of the ways because we're really talking about this first part is not just like the specifics of what to say to whom so that you can get a promotion, but it's really how, prioritize and execute. When you prioritize correctly, thinking about bottom line dollars, how many people you're going to be helping, and how that affects the company, and that reflects on you because you're the one who took responsibility for it, you're going to be recognized. You can't help but be recognized, except in extreme scenarios. So think about, what's the dollar productive activity I'm doing right now as an admin or as an architect or even as a business leader. If you're a business leader already, we can all waste time and produce nothing. So really think, how am I making this company better? How am I improving the lives of other people? And then do those things first, even if they're not the fun things. And a lot of times they probably aren't. Like literally, they're probably not the most fun things. So just want to throw my 2 cents in on that.
Something about this topic is, I learned this from the book called How to Save an Hour Every Day. The ideal thing is for you the night before, just choose 5 tasks that they are a priority for you and you're going to accomplish them tomorrow. Because if you have a big list and you end your day without accomplishing everything, you will feel bad. So prioritizing your tasks the night before and make your subconscious work to make this happen the following day, it's huge. And if you still have more time, do more activities, but at least 5. Choose them the night before.
Yeah, I'm going to throw something on top of that because I do that, right? I do 6. And then what I do is I star or circle the hardest one. The one that, and by hardest one, it doesn't need to be, it could be a 5-minute task, but it's the one I'm most likely to not do, but it's still critical, right? And then when I wake up in the morning, I do that first. It's like the old Mark Twain saying, if you wake up every day and swallow a frog, eat a frog, like that's going to be the hardest thing that you do all day. The rest of the day is going to seem like a breeze. So you want to swallow that frog, write down your 5 or 6 things, circle the hardest. And Bettina, you're right. You no longer have to lie there in bed talking yourself through what you have to do the next day. And then you wake up, do the hardest thing, man, you half your day is accomplished already and you haven't avoided it.
Yeah. So lead up and lead down all the time. Great leaders concurrently lead upward and also downward. I put this image here to let you know the importance also of leading your peers, the customers, your team, your manager, and yourself. It's so important for you to support your leadership. And this is what can bring you a promotion as well. And sometimes your leader doesn't understand anything about Salesforce. So you have to guide them how to prioritize your needs, how to make your division grow. And sometimes you have to lead your bosses as well, and also your peers. Josh, remember me the story you were telling yesterday about the trainings you offer? I think this is a great example that you can share with them, the free trainings you offer to get a promotion.
I want to save that for a different slide, if that's okay. But I do want to just share some input on this, leading up and leading down the line. And another way to think about it is to manage up and manage down. Okay. And so when you're a leader, you have to manage your team, right? For me, I always had weekly one-on-ones. It might be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but I had them manage up so that they would prep before the meeting, the day before. I would receive from them a weekly report, not a bunch of numbers, not a bunch of gobbledygook, but it was essentially these things. This is what I accomplished this week. This is where I got stuck. This is what I need help with. These are the problems I solved, right? And so I'd have that information. And so even though they were booked for a 30-minute meeting, I would already understand really well. Plus they've digested this information. They didn't show up having to think about this stuff. I asked them and then they're like, oh, let me think about that. So they've already prepared, which we've already talked about. right? Being prepped. And then we could spend 10 minutes on the business problems and 20 minutes really getting to know what's going on in their lives. You know, what's happening outside of work? How are your relationships? How's your family? What are you doing for this weekend? And that just builds the stronger ties between one another. And so for myself, and I had managers that had never had this happen to before. As an example, I was running the world's largest scientific staffing firm in, not the world's, the country's largest scientific staffing firm in Australia. And I reported to the CEO, Pam. She's amazing, an amazing person. And every Thursday, we'd have a meeting every Friday. Every Thursday, I'd write this laundry list. These are the deals we closed. These are the new clients we signed. These are the issues. This is the status of each of my team members and where they are, where I think they need development, and then highlighting their successes so that they get some visibility also for her at a high level. And then what I need from her for me to do my job better. And she's like, oh, wow, this is great. Yeah, I've never seen this before. This woman was 65 years old. She'd been a leader for over 30 years. No one had ever done this before. And it's very possible that you're in a situation that your leaders have never done this before or seen this before. They might ask for it, and that's great because now they know what they're doing. But even if they don't ask, you just offer it. Thursdays, by Thursday night, give them a report, 5, 6, 10 bullets, whatever. And then you have your meeting on Friday, or maybe you have no meeting. Maybe you meet with your manager once a month. Doesn't matter. Give them that weekly report. It also keeps them off your back. For those of us who don't like to be micromanaged, right? For those of us who don't like to have someone constantly tapping us on the shoulder. I've got kids that hate that, right? My kids are both teenagers. What's going on? Did you do this work? Did you do that? Did you follow up on this? Did you make it to practice? Blah, 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 blah. And they're constantly like, God, will you stop bugging me about that? It's like, yeah, happy to stop bugging you. Will you start reporting up? Why don't you just tell me when you've accomplished the thing that I asked you to do? Just tell me, right? It's hard for them to get it because they're 15, 17 years old, but we're adults, right? We should be able to digest this and start implementing it starting tomorrow. I think tomorrow's Thursday. Everyone gets to write their first update and report to their bosses. When you make your boss's life easier, man, you become that's one key thing. You become the obvious choice for a promotion. All right.
Yeah.
What else?
An idea, maybe you can create a dashboard personalized to your boss. Just ask his need and do something specific for them. This will make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So the last one that I want to touch point is discipline brings freedom. Discipline doesn't mean rigidity, and it is a fact, in fact, essential for freedom and results. We see this on sports. So if you want to lose weight, if you're disciplined on what you're eating, and the same thing if you're disciplined in growing into the Salesforce ecosystem. Like Nikki was saying at the beginning of our meeting, how professionals think Trailhead it is, how in love she is with Trailhead. If you guys are consistent and have a self-discipline of keep learning always and always, and know the path you want to pursue, you're going to get there. You're going to have the freedom you want because you're going to be knowledgeable on the area that you want.
It's true. It's so true, Bettina. You know, when I think about self-discipline in the world of corporations or organizations, and people are wanting to level up and improve their career, probably the biggest challenge that I see with a lot of people, 100% of the 70% of the time, this is 100% true. Like it's one of those things that it's about the follow through on what you say you're going to do, right? It takes discipline to have extreme ownership. It takes discipline to consistently every single week manage up. It takes discipline to stop and pause and slow down and really prioritize your week, prioritize the issues. All of those things, they take discipline, and they don't need to be hard. You only have to do two things. One, you have to put it in your calendar, okay? So it's there. And two, you have to have the discipline to do the thing that your calendar says. I look at it like, when I look at my calendar and I've made a plan for what I'm supposed to do this week, it's like someone in my past is telling me what to do to make the future better. And that someone happens to be me, right? And so when you create a calendar and a bunch of events and then you don't actually follow through on those events, it's like you're telling yourself that you're wrong, right? Which is not good. So when you have the discipline to do the small things, the little incremental things, you get a little bit better every single day. And when you flex that muscle over time, over 30 days, say, that muscle's built. and it's just going to roll. Now, be careful of getting derailed from discipline, right? People who are lifting weights or exercising or running face injuries, and they might not go back to exercise for 6 months, even though they're ready to go back after 2 or 3 weeks. So discipline isn't just the discipline to do the things that you have to do on a daily basis, but it's to expect setbacks and have a plan for how to reintroduce yourself into the habits that are already, going to make you successful so that you don't fall behind.
Yeah, I want to outline here some ideas that the book brings, because I wish you guys find some time to read it. If not, this is an outcome. If you apply everything that they teach on the book, you're going to be a leader that will be confident but not cocky, courage but not foolhardy, competitive but a gracious loser, attentive to details but not obsessed, strong but have endurance, a leader and a follower.
Whoa, pause there. Leader and a follower.
Oh, leader and a follower.
That's so critical. I don't want to gloss over it, because everything on here is confident but not cocky. It's like, yeah, duh. Like all this stuff, it's like, yeah, we already know this. Be competitive but a gracious loser. Like everybody knows that who's over the age of 20 and has a job. Like everyone knows that, right? But a leader and a follower. There are a lot of people who want to become leaders because they don't like being followers, or they think that their boss is dumb, or they have better ideas, right? It reminds me of this this really terrific artist, Pablo Picasso. You might have heard of him, right? And oh no, sorry, Salvador Dali. This story is about Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali, who's the most famous surrealist of all time, and really the godfather of surrealism. Once said, I was an art major, in case you can't tell. That's what you get to be. You get to be a recruiter when you're an art major. That's the career path. Okay. But he said, before I became a surrealist, I had to be a realist first. Right. So he had to have the discipline to be able to draw whatever he saw in photorealism. And he could do that. So could Matisse with his big flower cutouts and sweeping strokes. So could Picasso. Most people don't know that about these very famous artists, is that they could draw anything that they saw. And what makes their art incredible is that they did all of that 100% out of choice, not because they weren't capable. And so too with us in our leadership roles, we must follow. We must sort of be the apprentice before we can become the master. And most masters are still apprenticing in something. Everyone's got a teacher. Everyone's got a boss. Even if you're this, I'm the president of my company, and I have about 30 bosses called my clients, right?
And I think this is where the user groups come very handy. For example, you can be the one in the company that knows the most about Salesforce, but if you join the Salesforce user group, you can find peers that you can follow and keep learning with them.
That's right. So let's do this. Why don't we have this, if you want, you can screenshot this. Otherwise, Bettina, maybe you can put a link in the meetup, and people can go here and either see the slide deck, and then we can move on to the next slide and keep it rolling for all of our listeners.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to wrap up the other one. That's okay.
The Josh show. Okay. All right. Well, if you're not looking, it's just a bunch of people running in a sprint, and they are kicking ass. They're really going for it. And the slide says, do your best. So you want a promotion, you have to do your best. And I got to tell you, doing your best doesn't guarantee a promotion. That's really, really important to understand. There are a lot of people out there who crush it every single day, and they're not leaders, and they're not going to get promoted, right? But if they're doing their absolute best every single day, that's all you can do. You can't do more than that, right? So when you think about a promotion is a competition, right? There's always going to be someone that you're competing with. Now, you want to be the obvious choice. And the way to be the obvious choice is to be the badass on your team, so that they don't call a guy like me and ask me to present a bunch of top candidates from all over the country, right? Because there are always other people who can do your job and do your job better. always, 100% of the time. So you want to be obvious in front of your leaders and managers to always do your best. So whatever that means for you, and this is not what the webinar is about, or this Clubhouse session is not about how to exactly do your best. You guys know what that means. You know, we're all adults here. It means, essentially, it's like Bettina's last slide. Like, don't be a complainer. Work really hard. Put in extra hours. And we're going to move to the next slide and get into some more details about how to accomplish this. Okay, what we've got is a picture of, it looks like Atlas holding up the world on his shoulders, and it says rule number 4. And this is an image from Jordan Peterson's latest book, Beyond Chaos, and I think is it Beyond Order and Chaos? Beyond Chaos and Order? Casey, tell us. Oh, I think it's, I can Google it. I think it's, yeah, Beyond Chaos, Beyond Order. Anyway, it's his latest book. Thanks. It's his latest book. I'm a huge Jordan Peterson fan. Love his books.
Order.
Okay, Beyond Order. Okay, thank you. So this rule in this book is, notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Man, I love this. I don't think this has ever been said better by anyone in my 48, 49 years. I've never heard this so succinctly in my entire life, right? I'm going to say it again. Notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Okay, you want a promotion. What do you need to do? Like, really, realistically, what do you need to do? Well, you need to look at two different things. One, you need to identify where opportunities are to make things better, right? Is there something that used to get done by someone else on the team and it's not getting done anymore? What is that? Write it down. Is there something that used to be done really well and now it's being done poorly on the team or in your department, or maybe even in another department? Write that down. This is the key, guys. Like, we could throw out every single freaking slide on this whole thing and just sit around and talk about rule number 4 from Jordan's book, okay? Because the way that you get a promotion is crystal clear. You find out what's not getting done or what's not being done well, and then you take extreme responsibility to improve it or to accomplish it. That's it. All right, everybody hang up and go home because the session's over. I'm serious. This is the deal. For real. This is the deal. Okay. So let me give you a short story. It's a Josh story about where that happened with me. All right. So I was working for Robert Half. I was a recruiter, and I worked on I worked on the technology team here covering Oregon and Southern Washington. I knew that there was a promotion coming up for someone, and it was between me and a guy named Nick. Nick was great. Nick and I were basically number 1 and number 2 in the world at the time. Out of about 1,000 people, we were crushing it. We were at least top 10. I don't know exactly where we sat, but we were both crushing it. And I really wanted the promotion. And one of the things that I noticed was that there was a real lack in not just our team, which was very small, 5 to 10 people, but on the entire floor, including finance and accounting and all of these other departments. There was a real lack of understanding of how to understand people's personality or behavioral types. And when you're in recruiting, there's not a whole lot that is much more critical than that. You know, how long have you worked here? What do you want to get paid? All that logistical stuff. A monkey can do that. But it really takes someone who's been trained to understand the way someone operates. How do they communicate? Where are they going to fail? When they are under stress, what's going to go wrong with them? We can predict this stuff. This is science, okay? It's been done. So I decided to, along with my friend Tom, go and ask my boss and see if he would be open to Tom and I running a 12-session training program for not just our team, but it would be a lunch and learn for 12 weeks in a row every Wednesday, kind of like right now, same time as right now, where we would train people on how to understand Myers-Briggs personality profile and a personality type indicator, how to understand and read the differences in behavior so that someone didn't even have to take the test and read it, but you could ask certain questions and within probably 80-85% range, begin to understand what this personality what was like, and then look it up if you had to until you became competent in understanding those various personalities, to really determine if it was going to be, this individual was going to be a really good fit for the hiring manager that they would be reporting to long term, that you would place them in. Okay. And so that's what we did. And that was where opportunity lurked for me in my situation. And then taking responsibility for training, which was going above and beyond. It took hours of preparation, and it was a lot of risk because I'd never really done any trainings before. This was my first foray. Now it's, I don't know, 16 years later or whatever it is, and I've done a ton of them. But this was my very first foray into teaching people these things. And it worked out, and I got the promotion, and I made the most money I'd ever made in my entire life, right? And I was stoked, and it was really freaking sweet. So that's an example of something that you can do. Let's switch to the next slide, because I think we can keep this sort of story and this idea going here. Okay, so become the obvious resource for problem solving. And that's really what this is. When we find out where responsibility has been abdicated and we assume responsibility for it, then we solve the problem. Okay, so let me ask, Nikki, I'm going to have you unmute for a second. I'm going to ask you a question. Is there anything in your career or in any of your positions that you've experienced so far where you can see like, man, someone should be doing that? Can you think of anything?
I mean, yeah, there's been several times that I've come across those situations. I've stepped up and instituted processes or new processes, improved processes to fill that void, essentially.
That's awesome. And so after you had to do that 2, 3, 4 times, or however many, a dozen times, however many times, did you ever find, and it's, either way is fine, but did you ever find that people started to kind of tap you on the shoulder? So instead of you just looking for problems to solve, people started to, once you started to do that, people started to come to you to solve those problems?
Definitely. Or I attracted them. Either way, they started showing up a little easier.
Yeah. So it's honestly, this is like search engine optimization in the office, right? You go out there, you do a bunch of cool stuff, you solve some problems, and you do that enough times, and you make sure that it's visible enough to the right people, which was probably another slide, but you want to make your work visible. You want people to understand that there is a problem, it's been solved, you're the one who solved it. And when you do that enough times, they start coming to you to solve other problems, right? So I used to have to go out, make a ton of sales calls, do a bunch of direct marketing. I haven't made a sales call in over 2 years because now my business just comes to me, right? Now people know I solve problems, and then they just come to me. And it sounds like, Nikki, the same thing has happened for you in the world of Salesforce and within the businesses that you've operated. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah. So there you go. Simple. Start solving problems that no one else is solving. And all of a sudden, people start coming to you to solve problems. And people like to promote people who solve problems, don't they? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Bettina, you want to take this one? I thought I like this slide. What we're looking at is we're looking at a stormtrooper with it's a lawnmower, but it could be a vacuum cleaner. Who knows? And the slide says, "Don't leave a vacuum. Develop others for your job." I'll just touch on something. There's a book by Jim Collins. It's called Good to Great. Good to Great was written, I want to say, in the late 90s. It was a book that made Jim really famous. He's also one of my favorite writers. He's such an intelligent person. His grasp and understanding of the way corporate America works and employees work is really phenomenal. So much that he's on like the second page of this big 10, 12 page PDF I sent to future clients. And the reality is if someone can't do the job that you're doing now, it's pretty damn scary for companies to want to pull you out of that job and stick you somewhere else, right? So there's a couple ways we can do this. One is, if we've got a large enough team, we can develop and expose what we're capable of doing to the people around us. That's called, it's like a high tide raises all boats. You want to be the tide here, right? You want to help the people around you. Now, I come from a long tech background of tech placement, and it's like a joke among DBAs and certain technologists that you always hide your shit, right? You hold the keys to the kingdom. You don't let anybody in. It's called job protection, right? Job security. If no one else knows how to do the thing that you do. And I guess that's a way of operating if you have no aspirations to ever be anything other than a DBA or whatever that tech role is. But if you're looking for advancement, you better start sharing how you do things with other people, right?
And it's important to be duplicable. If you want to grow, you have to have somebody ready to assume whatever you're doing right now. That's such an important thing, to have somebody ready, because then they will think on a promotion to you. But if you don't have, they're going to hold you down on that position. You have to have someone ready. And this is essential. The first question I asked when somebody come for a coaching session was, I want to change my job. I said, okay, who's ready? And leave the doors open. You never know if one day you're going to come back to that company. If you're moving to another position in another company, be duplicable. That's such an important thing.
Totally. Totally. All right, let's see what we've got on the next slide. I just found out I'm awesome. You might want to get yourself tested. Okay. So articulate your accomplishments. And Nikki, we kind of touched on this a little bit before, right? So when you have done awesome things, it's really important to be able to articulate those accomplishments. We talk about this all the time when I'm doing sessions here on Clubhouse, when we're talking about resumes. Resumes should not be job descriptions, right? They should be stories of accomplishments. What did you actually achieve? And so I want people to start thinking, when you solve a problem, right? You need to have the words resulting in blank and then fill in the blank, right? Like, I consolidated this database. Okay, so what? Who cares, right? I consolidated this database resulting in what? Like, how did that save the company time or money? How did that save people headaches? Were people now able to not have to click 5 extra buttons, and consequently 40% of the people who should be clicking all 5 buttons weren't clicking all 5 buttons because that's too many buttons to click, right? So now it's a 90% adoption rate. You know what I mean? Like, we need to look carefully at what the actual result is from the work that we did. So we need to be, this isn't even telling anyone. This is just our ability to, like, if we had to communicate it, right? So when you solve a problem, I did this and I saw this opportunity. This is what I did to make things better, and it resulted in this. Saw the opportunity. This is how I did it. And this is the positive result that came from that, right? Now, once we can do that and we've practiced it, maybe we've said it in front of the mirror. Maybe we've said it in front of FaceTime or a Zoom call and we've recorded it. Maybe we've told our family members or our close friends or colleagues. Then we want to make sure that people above us, and preferably, I strongly recommend this, the people above the people who are above us. When we're trying to articulate and promote ourselves, it's really important that you have advocates. That might be another slide, by the way, but you cannot rely on your immediate manager to give you credit for the work that you've done. Okay, which means that we have to develop relationships with people who are above our manager. And that doesn't mean going behind their back, our manager's back. It doesn't mean going behind their back and complaining. Let's go to the next slide, actually. It doesn't mean going behind their back and complaining about them or anything like that. But we want to develop really great relationships with these other folks. Bettina, could you forward the slide, please?
I want to just add a comment on that. That's very important.
Sure, go for it.
The accomplishments, I think one way for you to really embed this in your practice every day is by teaching others. So if you've done something amazing and you're capable to teach someone else what you have done, then you really embed this into yourself. So share with others and share on social media as well. Share with your peers, because then you're going to be known as a resource for ideas, for accomplishments, and use social media in your favor. And one of the ideas is sharing your accomplishments and teaching others.
Absolutely. I think Josh Cruz has done a really good job with his YouTube channel, Techology, TCH-ology. He's done that, what it was like for him to move from an admin to a developer and this sort of thing. And then we can jump on things like the Ohana Slack. Maybe you haven't heard of it, but if you have now, you can check out the Ohana Slack, and there's all sorts of rooms on there where you can sort of ask questions, get support from other people in the community, or just say, hey, everybody, check out this new thing I learned. Maybe I didn't invent it, but I did this and it worked out really great, right? And that gives you some visibility there too. And part of why we do this, why we want to be able to articulate our accomplishments, is because we want to develop advocates. An advocate is just someone who, when a manager says, okay, I need to promote someone on the team, and you want to be the obvious choice, it's going to be because they go to other people. Trust me, managers do this. Hey, Nitin, what's up, man? You got a minute? I want to talk to you. What do you think of Bettina? How's she doing? Right? Okay, I don't want this conversation to go anywhere else, but do you feel comfortable? Like, if she was in a leadership position, is she someone that you'd be comfortable reporting to? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. Or maybe your company does 360 reviews. And 360 review is just like the lead up, lead down, right? You have the people above you, the people who operate next to you, and the people below you giving honest feedback, often anonymous, with comments and ratings on 10 or 20 different, areas of work. So you don't want people to trash you on these things, because you'll never get it back. Like, it just won't work. You'll have to go to another company to get a promotion. You get trashed by more than one person on one 360 at any point in your career, you better start looking for another place to go. It's just going to be really hard, because those impressions that those decision makers have is it's really hard to change their minds, really hard, particularly if they're not a very visible or active boss or employer for you. I know some people are like, yeah, I met with my boss on the first day, and then we had a meeting every quarter. It's like, okay. So that there now we have our Thursday. Now we have our Thursday, emails that we have to send. So develop advocates. That means helping other people. To Bettina's point, sitting with them, supporting them. Those are people under you or next to you. And then you also want to develop relationships with the leaders above your boss. That's real simple. Like them on, follow them on LinkedIn. When they have a birthday, make sure that you shoot them an email or a quick call. Hey, what's up, Casey? I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Hope it's an awesome day. Everything's going great here down in California or wherever you happen to be sitting, right? So you do that. And when they come into if you're working in an office, when they come into the office and they're being walked to the corner office for all of their meetings for the day, you stand up, you smile, you walk over, you shake hands and introduce yourself. Oh, hey, are you Bettina? Yeah, well, welcome. I hear you're down for the day. That's great. My name's Josh and I work in this department. It's really nice to meet you, right? You put yourself out there, which means you should dress nice. Don't dress loud. Always dress for they say this all the time, dress for the job you want, not the job you've got, right? Okay, moving on, leverage interest from competitors. Okay, true story. I've got a friend of mine. She is in the Salesforce ecosystem. She's been in it for 5 or 6 years. And she's been largely underpaid for at least 2 of those most recent years. And she had reached out and said, hey, Josh, I'm getting these calls from competitors and I've got an offer from one. It's $30,000 more than what I'm making. She was making $110,000. These people plus a 10% bonus. And she was offered $130,000 plus a 10% bonus. Do the math on that. It's $33,000. Okay. All said and told. That's not nothing, right? That's something that can change your life. That's a 30% increase. That can change your life. It can change your fortune. You can get out of debt faster, or you can buy a house sooner, or you can pay off a house sooner, or you can send your kids to private school for that, or you can send your kid to the college of their choice for that. It means a lot. $30,000 isn't nothing, right? But she loves the company that she works at. So what do you do? Well, we did a little bit of talking and a little bit of back and forth and coaching, and she went to her, we found a way for her to articulate that she is not actively looking. She's not really actively pursuing other opportunities. She's committed to the company. She wants to stay here. She wants to stay here a long time. She articulated all of her accomplishments, what she's been done, and then she articulated what her value is to the rest of the world, right? So it sounds something like this. Bettina, you and I schedule a meeting. You're my boss. I schedule a meeting with you. We sit down and I say, hey, listen, I just want to have a heart-to-heart. First of all, you're an awesome boss, and I really love working with you. And this company has been amazing to me. And don't worry, I'm not quitting, so don't get all nervous, right? But I needed to address something that's been on my mind lately. And it's this. One, I've got a massive commitment to this company, and I want to stay here. And I really want to stay here long term. But as you know, market's going crazy, and we have employees that are constantly getting poached. And there are more than one organization right now is trying to recruit me. All right. And I've been told that I can receive compensation that's a solid 30% more than what I'm earning right now. And if I'm being honest with myself, I would say that absolutely my value is there. I am in no way wanting to hold you over a barrel. I'm not necessarily asking for more money, but I want to make you very aware that career growth is important to me. And of course, with that comes money, but career growth is really important to me. And would you please, if it's okay with you, would you please consider doing a review of my compensation and my responsibilities? That would mean a lot to me because I really want to stay here.
And you touched something very important, not just the compensation, but my responsibilities. If you want to more, like you said, address for the work that you want. So if you want more, work for that.
Exactly. Look, the people who are paid the most are the people who solve the most problems for the most people. That's it. Like literally, that's it. And you know, there might be some exceptions. They just got lucky. They made some smart decisions about how to invest or whatever. But we're really talking about who's going to be getting paid the most money and who's going to be given more responsibility. The people with the most responsibility in corporate America or just in business, those are the owners, right? Let's go. Yeah, those are the owners, right? And so the owners and the CEOs and the leaders, they have been, and I Casey, correct me if I'm wrong. Casey's read this book also, but I want to say Peterson said like they have been, oh God, what is the word? I'm so dumb sometimes. They've been granted the authority by everyone below to take on more responsibility, right? Like when you're the boss, when you're the leader, people have given that authority. When they sign that when you sign that employment contract to go work for someone, you're giving the people above you the authority to oversee you. You're granting them that authority, and you're acknowledging that they might have a skill set that's different or possibly better than yours for running a company or making big decisions. They might have better insight. They might have more insight. They might have a better network. They might have a larger network, right? They might have more background and skill sets, you know, that matter, okay? So the leaders in the organizations have been granted authority. So you want to be granted authority in order to grow, right? So basically like that's the deal. Now I'm all over the place, but basically you want to go to your boss and you want to say, look, I think I'm more valued in the market than what I'm being compensated. I don't want to go. I want to stay, but I also don't want to hold you over barrel. Can we just have a heart to heart, right? Make it an easy conversation. So I'm going to tell you what happened at the end of this conversation. This is exactly what happened. The boss said to her, he said, okay, I've been waiting for you to do this. This has been an important part of your own personal progress as a manager and as a leader, was to get to the point where you could ask for a promotion or ask for more income. I've just been waiting for you to do it. And yes, of course, we're going to give you either a different title or more money, right?
Yeah, advocate for yourself. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think that there's just one before we wrap up, and I know we're kind of out of time here, but there's one more thing that I think is really, really important. There's been, you know, more than one occasion that I've seen where people take responsibility to get the title and be given the opportunity. So as an example, I was hired as a branch manager for tech staff in Brisbane, Australia. I ran the branch for the scientific staffing firm. And 2 days after I started, my boss quit. He was the national director. He quit. And I spent a couple of weeks trying to get my sea legs under me and figure things out. And then I went to Pam, the CEO, and I said, all right, Pam, you need someone who can run Brisbane, be here in the seat, but also run Melbourne and Sydney. And I'm going to make a proposal for you. Why don't you give me that job? And you don't have to pay me anymore. And you let me do that job for a period of months. And if I can increase the sales, and if I can increase the overall profitability and improve the teams and improve their knowledge, and you feel like giving me a promotion, or excuse me, you feel like making it an official promotion and you give me a raise, then that's great. But it gives me the chance to get this off of your plate, and it gives me more experience. What do you think? It took her a month, and then she came back and she said, you're on. And our sales hockey sticked and it went crazy. But before I got the official promotion, I moved back here to the United States. So I didn't have it for very long. But you can do that too. You can just say, hey, look, someone just quit. Why don't I do the job? Don't pay me anymore, right? Watch me for 3 months. Let's see if I can accomplish this stuff. And then you give me, pay me what you paid them or more. Maybe pay me twice as much because I'm that much awesome, because I'm twice as awesome, right?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Yes, let's wrap up with your resources here. You have an amazing group that on Clubhouse you meet, I think, Tuesday and Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, Tuesdays and Fridays, and you still have Andrew and Stephanie here on Clubhouse. Thanks, guys. It's great to see you, and thank you for joining us today. So Fridays is the Ask Me Anything show, and that most, but not every Tuesday, is the Salesforce Hiring Lens. If you're not on Clubhouse, get on it. You can do it for Android or iPhone now. You can find me on YouTube and Clubhouse by typing in Josh Force. And then you can find the Salesforce Top Performers Club on Clubhouse, which is the same name as this meetup group that we've got. If you're looking for a job, check out my jobs, the salesforcerecruiter.com/job. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. All right, Bettina.
Yeah,
and I can't even pronounce your last name. You got to pronounce your last name. You can tell I've been avoiding it. Is it Flood?
Flug is a German name. My family comes from Germany originally.
Okay.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, I offer coaching for professionals that want to find balance between the professional and personal life. And I offer a free strategic coaching session to help you guys establish the goals of the year. So if you want to schedule that, go on my website, contact me, and I can get this done with you. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure talking to all of you.
It was a pleasure. Have an awesome, awesome week. And we'll see you in a month, right? With a different show. And it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks, Bettina.
Yes. Oh, the next topic is career paths for Salesforce administrators. So if you know anyone who wants to grow in this area, please invite them to join our next one.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Stacey. Thanks, Nitin.